Alright, ladies and gentlemen, another video for Honkai character analysis. Don't do these often, but we're going to do another one. We've done one for Herrscher of Truth, another one for Herrscher of Origin right now, right in May. Now, before we get into it, all the information is pretty much based off of Marissa Honkai's video about the version 3 of these characters and all the information based on version 3. If any more information comes out, I probably won't try to talk about it because I think version 3 is generally considered the final version. And in this video, it could pretty much go over everything, the whole kit and all the percentages and where you get everything, all the rank ups, the weapons, the stigmata, and how I, as a pretty mediocre to maybe slightly above average player, would play the character. I'm not going to do like, rank 1 potential gameplay, as I don't do that stuff. But from my perspective, that's how we're going to go through this. And so let's just start off because it's going to be quite the lengthy video. Imaginary type element is lightning, and she uses a sword. You can already theorize a lot of things from that, but that's just what she uses. Leader skill, team elemental damage plus 24%, and team initial SP plus 34, which is pretty good baseline. And then when a Kiana is present in the team, Kiana and Herrscher of Origin specifically gain an additional 34 SP. And later on in S3, that's enhanced to 42% and 42 SP. And then in double S3, that's 50% and 50 SP, which overall proves to be quite a good team leader skill, but obviously Herrscher Finality probably pulls ahead a fair bit. And before we continue, you'll probably notice this a lot throughout the whole analysis, is Kiana and Herrscher of Origin kind of like affixes to a lot of the passives and whatnot. Is the ability might say Kiana and Herrscher of Origin must be present, or Kiana, Herrscher of Origin and Herrscher of Truth must be present, or Herrscher of Finality, and so on and so forth. There's a lot of that in like this whole thing, which kind of insinuates that you must need another Herrscher of Finality or a Kiana unit in the party, but I'll outline that as we go along. First passive, when Origin Reversal and Origin Reversal Flash are triggered, generate a Thunder Overload, deal a total of 5% attack damage of lightning to yourself and the enemy for a short duration. Origin Reversal and Origin Reversal Flash are a separate ability. One's a combo attack and one's a basic attack chain thing, which we'll get into in just a moment. When evasion skill or weapon active is triggered, or if Herrscher of Origin switches out, the Thunder Overload will end. And then the most important part about this passive is that Herrscher of Origin is always in Herrscher form. What we can take away from this passive is that Thunder Overload will help you in Elysian Realm mostly just to trigger something like Calpas's Signets, with the health sacrifice one. That's pretty much all this helps you with. Other than that, it's just small damage to the enemy. And then the Herrscher form, or Herrscher of Origin, always in Herrscher form, lets you, well, assume that any Herrscher form buffs that you get from any sources will honestly be constantly active throughout this character. So it's pretty good. You can run maybe like Herrscher of Thunder's signature stigma, or maybe some other Herrscher that has just Herrscher buffs, Herrscher form buffs. You can run that just baseline on her, and it'll be super good. Go into subskill 1. When enemies are affected by a Herrscher of Origin time stop effect, which I will be honest with you is quite frequent, as she stops time almost like once every 2 seconds. If you're just playing her like pretty well, they gain a vulnerability effect. Enemies take 27% more lightning damage at S0, and that's enhanced to 30% at S2. Time stop effect, like I said, is very frequent on this character. You trigger it very, very frequently. That's all I can say. Subskill 2 is unlocked at triple S, and honestly is pretty crap. So total damage plus 10%, and all enemies on the field take 5.2% more total damage from Kiana's and Herrscher of Origin, another one of those specific character things. Triple S is really only if you're rolling for Herrscher of Finality and Herrscher of Origin at the same time, and also probably have a Herrscher of Truth to really get maximum value out of it, so that's that, but we'll get into that once we get to the rank up section. The evasion is when Mind Body Insight meter is full, you can tap attack after evading to use a combo attack. And then this evasion skill, you tap to activate Origin Reversal Flash, dealing percentage of damage, attack of lightning, and fill the blade with 1 charge of Wing Blade. This is very important to note. So this is how you trigger Origin Flash, is by having a full Mind Body Insight meter, which you fill up by normal attacking, I should say now. And then you can tap attack after evading to use a combo attack, which is Origin Reversal Flash, deals damage, and you gain Wing Blade, which is important for later on. This has a cooldown of 17 seconds, but it was stated that there's a minimum cooldown of 5 seconds, which that means you can most likely reduce the cooldown to a certain point. Origin Reversal Flash triggers a time stop effect. There it is, that's the time stop effect, and its damage is counted as basic attack. And that's the first of many time stop effects that we will witness throughout this whole character, is Origin Reversal, which is quite easy to trigger. And then the next subskill, which is unlocked at S2 rank, The evasion cooldown, minus 2.5 seconds, which is quite handy, and the evasion skill deals 200% more damage. After using 2 Wingblade / combos, combo attacks, gain 1 evasion reduction charge and reduce evasion cooldown by 5 seconds. This is kind of like a small quality of life thing in my opinion. I don't think it does anything too crazy. It's going to help you in like the highest percentages of gameplay if you're trying to go for high Nirvana or whatever, or maybe high-end Red Lotus. But I think generally this thing is not going to help you in any way, shape, or form. But you do, I guess, start with one charge of evasion reduction per battle. You start with one, so that's handy, I guess. As for the basic attacks, I'm not going to go through the percentages, but the 4th sequence is quite important. So you deal a bunch of damage, and you gain a huge amount of mind, body, insight, energy. And this is like your main method of replenishing it, is just all of the basic sequence, including the 4th one, sorry. During this, you also gain iron body and 30% total damage reduction, or total damage multiplying resistance, which is quite handy, but mainly you're just here for the mind-body insight to maybe do your combos a lot faster. Now, there's a very specific mechanic with the sheathing. The sheathing mechanic is very interesting with this character. It's essentially pressing a button at the right time, much like Flame Sakitama, where you have to press a button at the right time. Sheathing action during this attack will be completed even if it's interrupted. You just have to press a button at the correct time. I believe it's like skill or attack or dodge. You get prompted to do this from the gameplay I've seen. The game tells you what button to press at what time, so it's nothing too crazy. Evading and using weapon active will not reset the basic attack sequence, and the basic attack can charge a small amount of paratrauma. This is very important and very, very cool to me. I like seeing this in games, specifically combo-based games, where evading or using a weapon active will not reset your basic attack sequence. This makes it so, essentially what this is if you've played Genshin or if you played some character in Honkai, like Arataki Ito, you can just attack and then dodge and then continue your attack chain. And I like seeing this, and I really like that, so that's good. Anyway, on to the next thing, sub-skill 1, which is the QTE. It's triggered when a time slow, a paralyze, or a Kiana uses a combo attack. Another one of those important things where having a Kiana makes things a lot more infinitely easier. But yeah, time slow, paralyzed, or Kiana does a combo, you deal a bunch of damage and create 1 Thunder Overload. That's obviously not too important for the Thunder Overload, it's just more damage. But the last part here, incredibly important, and a massive damage booster. When both Herrscher of Truth and Herrscher of Origin are present, within 10 seconds after casting the QTE, team deals total damage plus 50%. And this is another one of those things that you'll encounter, is that you just need both of the 2 new Herrscher characters, Truth and Finality, and all these other 3 characters also experience that, and most obviously Herrscher of Finality experiences it with Herrscher of Truth and Origin. Subskill 2, after a QTE or the 4th attack sequence, enemies receive 15% bonus lightning damage from the Herrscher of Origin specifically, and that's 15% at S0. It goes up to 20% in S1. This is quite cool, quite fun. You either have a solo capability with the 4th attack sequence. This is going to help you in Elysian Realm, most likely, but the QTE part is obviously for team gameplay. Going on to the ultimate 75 SP cost with a cooldown of 18 seconds. You just kind of cast your ultimate, deal a bunch of damage, and you enter MGR Raiden Blade mode. And then from there on, you go into kind of like a stationary time stop phase where you can press, I think, ultimate or normal attack to deal 12 slashes, each slash dealing 85% attack of lightning damage. And then this mode will end after you cast all 12 slashes or 20 seconds has passed. And then after that, you unleash a finisher slash, dealing this much damage, attack of lightning damage. And then, as I said earlier, time is paused during this entire ultimate. There's a perpetual time stop effect where the timer doesn't go down, the enemies are frozen. So it's pretty good. And then that lasts for 20 seconds or until you do 12 slashes. Furthermore, obviously because this is either the trio character, when Herrscher of Finality and Herrscher of Truth are both present in the team, ultimate skill will be replaced with Joint Burst Attack. Now, to find out pretty much how this affects the future gameplay, this is going to be more so in the Herrscher of Finality, because this is a lot more elaborated in Herrscher of Finality's kit and gameplay. But essentially for Herrscher of Origin, this reduces the cost of 50 SP and a 15-second cooldown. And then Joint Burst Attack deals 510% attack of lightning damage, resets the Switch CD for Herrscher of Origin, and triggers Herrscher of Finality's special QTE attack. Yeah, find out more about that in the Herrscher of Finality video, which will come out soon after this one. But essentially, when you have all 3 of these characters in your party, the ability, your ultimate, your MGR Raiden Blade mode will be replaced immediately. No more of that. But just having, let's say, Herrscher of Finality and Herrscher of Origin in the party, you'll still have the MGR Raiden Blade mode. You do need exactly these 3 characters in the party at all times. Moving on, subskill 1 for this section, SS rank unlocked. Ultimate lightning damage plus 60%, and finisher slash deals an additional 200% attack of lightning damage. It's just a self ultimate damage buff by 60%, which is quite a chunky amount if you're going for a solo kind of a single, like, you know, lightning damage DPS. Then this is probably the one to go for, but that's at SS rank. Subskill 2 is probably the most important thing about this character, and the big reason why this character is going to be liked is that it's the second character, or third I think right now, after Herrscher of Truth, that can deal with imaginary enemies a lot better. So if ultimate hit imaginary enemies, 100% of the damage the shell takes is transferred to the seed, reflected as HP loss. This is incredibly important. The only character previous to, I think, Herrscher of Truth was Paladinus Equinox, and now Herrscher of Truth, Herrscher of Origin, and Herrscher of Finality all do this, which is incredibly important because imaginary enemies stink. And the subskill 3 is to do with the joint burst attack, so this only applies if you have all 3 of the characters in the party, essentially. But there is a section for something else. So joint burst attack, all enemies on the field take 8.3% increased damage. That's at S0. That's more total damage. And then after casting Wingblade Slash, team total damage plus 8.3% at S0. Both of these are increased to 10% at double S. Essentially, you don't get half of this unless you have all 3 of the other characters, but the second half you get, which is the Wingblade Slash is triggered. That's your combo attack after you have 3 stacks of Wingblade. Now on to the, well, aforementioned combo attack. So at max kinetic energy, which you build up through normal attacks, you press the attack button after sheathing your sword or at the end of your attack sequence number 4 to use a combo attack that deals a bunch of lightning damage. When Mind Body Insight is maxed, it will be consumed on hit and additionally trigger Origin Reversal and trigger a time stop effect, and this is another one of the aforementioned time stop effects. And then after activating the aforementioned Origin Reversal, you press attack button again to deal a second slash of 250% attack of lightning damage, so it's just more damage there. And then, another section, when Origin Reversal is triggered, again, 1 charge of Wingblade. Then now we go into what Wingblade Slash is. When Wingblade has 3 charges, hold the attack button to trigger Wingblade Slash, dealing an incredibly large amount of damage, probably the same amount as your ultimate, or maybe slightly less, I'm not sure, but it's a lot of lightning damage. And that's incredibly important. But what did we learn from this? So essentially, max out your kinetic gauge, which is you build that up by auto-attacking. You press attack button at the end of your 4 sequence or after sheathing your sword, skill-based. And then also at the same time, when Mind Body Insight is maxed, it will be consumed and trigger Origin Reversal, which will then let you get another charge of Wingblade, and then let you trigger Wingblade Slash. But we'll get into the gameplay loop near the bottom of this section, or this whole kind of guide. I have a general flow of the character kind of section. Moving on to the sub-skill, when Wingblade Slash is, or hits an enemy, Herrscher of Origin gains these specific effects. This is specific to Herrscher of Origin. You gain 4 SP at S0, 5 SP at double S2, total damage plus 30% at S0 and 35% at double S2, and then total damage resistance by 25% at S0 and 30% at double S2. Also 1 level of anti-interrupt, and this is last 10 seconds and is refreshable because obviously if you're playing this character by themselves, you'll be able to do that quite frequently. Subskill 2, combo attack and ultimate gain elemental break, which is meant to be breach by 20%, typo. And then subskill 3, lightning damage plus 30% at S0, 35 at double S1. And then combo attack, you gain additional 52% lightning damage at S0, pardon me. I'm choking right now. 52% lightning damage at S0, 60% at double S1. And that is the character's kit. That's a lot of information to take away, but we'll summarize it in the next section. So far, the character sounds great. Mainly a support for Kiana, Herrscher of Finality, and a bit of a support for other characters if you want to try to use her as a support. But honestly, she's going to probably become the main lightning damage dealer for a lot of lightning teams, because it seems she does a lot of damage, and the time stop effect is absolutely crucial for, well, you know, dealing damage to things and getting good times. So far the character sounds absolutely amazing. So let's go through the rank ups. Now this part I'm going to zoom out a bit because I'm not going to go through all of these things at once. Now instead of reading all of the rank ups myself, you guys can pause the video and take a look at all of them individually to see which rank gives you what exactly. But I'm going to just quickly highlight where I think the milestones are, the super important ones are, and which ones are going to give you the most value. So starting off, I think S2 gives you the most value instantly because, well, it's essentially you gain S1 at the same time, obviously, but it's mainly because it's an upgrade and an unlock. Usually these points are going to have the most value, obviously, But the only caveat for this one is that the unlock section is the evasion cooldown reduction and whatnot, that whole evasion gameplay unlock. So you have to be kind of intellectual to know how to utilize this to the highest degree. But you also gain a 3% increase of enemy vulnerability, or rather, it's enemy lightning damage from Herrscher of Origin. But S2, to me, is a pretty high value one just because it's an upgrade and an unlock. The next one would be double S, obviously another one, upgrade and an unlock. You upgrade the kind of after Wingblade Slash team total damage, as well as the joint burst, which is unfortunately only the three character kind of mechanic, so you will need 3 of them to get that value. But double S also unlocks the incredibly high increase in damage for her ultimate, by 60%, as well as the finisher slash by 200 or an additional 200% attack of lightning damage, which is incredible for main DPSing. So this is another next milestone is double S. And the third milestone, as high as it is, I think double S3 is the next thing I'd recommend getting if you are investing in this character. But although if you are investing this high, you might as well get the character to triple S, you know, in the end. But I think double S3 is pretty good as it increases your, this is the obviously the leader ability, increases team damage up to 50%, but the SP portion as well makes your opener a lot easier to get off, as you'll have all the SP that you need no matter what. You'll have essentially 50 SP for all your characters, and then 100 SP for your Kiana and your Herrscher of Origin unit. So it's pretty incredible, pretty good. By all means, if you guys have a certain opinion on the rank ups and what are the milestones, by all means leave it in the comments. I'm not too prone to understanding exactly what the rank ups are, but that's just kind of my opinion. Those are the milestones. Now, moving on to the weapon, because we haven't obviously covered the weapon or the stigmata. That's going to be a pretty quick section, as they kind of play a small integral part, but it's not overly important in the greater scheme of things. Now, the weapon for the most part just does a damage and increases your damage as well. So you parry some attacks, you deal some damage, successful blocks, summon lightning things to deal more damage, and host lightning damage plus 30% for 8 seconds after you use your weapon active. So it's quite good, plus 30% damage. Then there's a Herrscher of Origin equip bonus. You now deal 2 slashes instead of 1 slash. You trigger a time stop effect. Another one of those time stop effects that you can trigger. This is an incredibly important thing. Activates a chain slash, you deal more damage, and you gain 1 evasion reduction charge, which is also quite important if you want to do the whole evasion mechanic. But the second most important thing about this, in my opinion, is that this is counted as a basic attack, as well as gaining 1 Wingblade charge. That's going to be important once we get to the general flow, because gaining 3 Wingblade charges as quickly as possible is going to be crucial, in my honest opinion. Passive 1, though, just more lightning damage, and upon triggering time stop effect, gain 1 stack of Perception. For every stack of Perception, host basic, combo, and charge attack gain total damage 10%, last 8 seconds, maximum of 3 stacks to a total of 30%. And quite important, if you can get it off when your weapon active parries, you gain 3 SP. I don't think that's overly important, but it can be pretty good if you're good at doing the parries. Passive 2 is more basic combo and charge attack, gain lightning damage by 40%, and Herrscher of Origin equip bonus in Herrscher form, combo attack inflict a status upon enemies when you hit them, last 10 seconds, enemy in this status take 15% bonus all elemental damage, which is quite good. Honestly, overall, her Stigma set is great. Nothing too crazy about requiring Herrscher form, except for obviously the second passive, but that's obviously at pre-arm level. But in general, I think her sword is quite universal for the most part, except for the Wingblade slash here as well. Everything else is quite universal in terms of usage. Moving on to the Stigma, total damage plus 20%, combo, a basic and charged gain, basic attack, combo attack, and charge attack gain lightning damage plus 50%, and evasion cooldown minus 20%, which is, you know, that's pretty standard to be quite frank with you. Mid is in Herrscher form. When combo attack hits an enemy's host lightning damage plus 35%, so it's quite selfish DPS because the host gain. And also in Herrscher form, gain 20% total damage resistant. Weapon active cooldown minus 40%. This effect has a 12-second cooldown, which is quite good. This is all great here so far. And at the bottom, host total damage plus 16%. When host trigger time stop effect, gain 3 SP, cooldown 3 seconds, and all enemies on the field take 9% bonus total damage from the host. Last 6 seconds, max 4 stacks. It's quite cool. You can trigger a lot of time stop effects so far, so you'll be able to get that. How many is that? 18 plus 18, 36% bonus total damage from the host. You can get that pretty quickly, in my honest opinion. And that's the bottom. Now, the 2 set is where it goes into a bit more support, because right now the top, middle, and bottom are quite selfish DPS as all of it boosts host lightning damage. It's not, you know, team damage or whatnot. there's only one little bit of team damage here on all enemies. Most of it is selfish damage. So going into the 2 set, basic attack, combo attack, and charge attack gain lightning damage by 35%, already not supporting, but whatever. Upon triggering a time stop effect, generate sword aura. In an AoE, enemies receive 8% bonus all elemental damage, lasts 8 seconds, max stacks are 3, not stackable with multiple stigmata sets. That's an important thing. You can't equip 3 of these sets on 3 different characters and get 3 stacks of this, because that would be a lot of damage. But yeah, you can get 3 stacks of this to a total of 24% bonus all elemental damage, which is quite good. And then 3 set, all enemies on the field receive 20% lightning damage bonus, lightning damage from the host's basic attack, combo attack, and charge attack, that's very strong. And then when any team member uses their joint burst attack in Herrscher form, all enemies on the field take 12% more total damage for 10 seconds, refreshable, and then when host combo attack hits a debuffed enemy 5 times, the debuff is increased by 24%. Now, for the 2 set and the 3 set bonus, you won't notice an extreme amount of support unless you are running all 3 of the characters, Herrscher of Truth, Origin, and Finality, as you need this joint burst attack mechanic. Which is kind of unfortunate, but it is what it is. The character herself, with just the top, mid, and bottom, does get a lot of bonuses, but it's kind of odd to find the fact that the 3 set has specifically the 3 Herrscher mechanic, which, you know, it is what it is. They're meant to be together. You take what you can get and you do whatever you want, but that's that. It's quite a chunky amount of damage that you can get if you do have all 3 of the characters. Now for the section that I don't really have 100% confidence in on this one character, because I would love to get some hands-on gameplay with this one, but the general flow. Now what does the general flow mean? This means it's my idea of how the character would be played. I'm not a perfect player. I'm not 100% rank 1 player in anything. I'm just a guy playing games, so I kind of know what I'm talking about, kind of don't know what I'm talking about. So the general flow, first section is DPS with the signature weapon, as the signature stigma doesn't really have an impact on a lot of your gameplay. We're just going to talk about with weapons and without weapons. So first of all, general flow DPS with signature weapon. You're going to start off with the basic attack sequence up from 1 to 4, and then press that 1 attack after the 4th sequence to trigger the Origin reversal, which will give you 1 wing blade stack. Then after that, you're going to use your weapon active, and you're going to gain a 2nd wing blade stack, and then evade and then tap attack to trigger Origin reversal flash, which will give you your 3rd wing blade stack. So far, so good. You know, we've got 3 wing blade stacks now. Then you hold attack to trigger wing blade slash. After that animation finishes, you tap ultimate to enter MGR right and blade mode, slash 12 times, go into the finisher, rinse and repeat. That's pretty much the general flow. Obviously, I'm not including your support characters that you may be running, because that's a lot of anomalies into the mix. For now, we're just focusing on the singular character, and I think that's a pretty good flow. You get all 3 wing blade stacks within 3 steps, and then you go into using your combos and whatnot into the ultimate, dealing a lot of damage. Rinse and repeat. That should be the general flow for the DPS with the signature weapon. How does it look like without the signature weapon, though? We're going down to this one. Now, without the signature weapon, you kind of start off the same. You do the 4 basic attack into the Origin reversal by tapping attack after sequence 4, gain 1 wing blade stack. Then for step 2, you repeat step 1 because you don't have the weapon active that gives you the 2nd wing blade stack. Now this is going to expand your gameplay across a lot more time, but obviously you have a few time stops in there, so it's going to be okay. But yes, you have to do repeat step 1 to gain your 2nd stack. Then you tap evade, and then tap attack after evading to trigger Origin reversal flash, and then you gain your 3rd wing blade stack. And then from there on, it's the same. Hold attack to trigger wing blade slash, tap ultimate to enter MGR mode, and then 12 slashes into the finisher, rinse and repeat. Quite, the same essentially. Nothing really changes, essentially just making your whole combo longer, because you have to do a whole 1 to 4 sequence attack again, because you don't have the weapon active that gives you the 3rd the 3rd wing blade stack. Next, going into general flow with supports with the signature weapon. Now, this part, listen, I don't know how to play supports at all. I use Eden and Official, which is, in my honest opinion, the easiest characters to use, but we'll go through it. Essentially, same thing again. Basic attack sequence 4 plus 1 attack to trigger Origin reversal, gain 1 wing blade. A weapon active, gain 1 wing blade. Evade into tap attack to trigger Origin reversal, then gain your 3rd wing blade. Now, for this part, essentially the same. Trigger wing blade slash. Essentially, now you don't go into your ultimate. Now you switch into your main DPS as Herrscher of Origin's ultimate, doesn't have any damage boosting effects. It's a main DPS ultimate, so you don't trigger her ultimate because it doesn't do anything for you. So unless you just want to get the damage out because time is stopped, but that's really up to you. I'll just switch to a main DPS if you're using her for support personally, but it is what it is. Or, depending on if you're using her with Herrscher of Finality and Herrscher of Truth, that's after you do the hold attack to trigger Wingblade Slash. After you do that, you would then tap ultimate to trigger the joint burst attack, and then switch to Herrscher of Finality. I did note here that with no signature weapon, it would be roughly the same, just no weapon active for the first Wingblade. Then you have to repeat step 1 again. It's essentially the same thing. It's quite simple, quite straightforward, and it all just depends on who you're running this with. If you're supporting nothing to do with Herrscher of Finality or Truth, so you're like supporting, let's say, an Aponia with an Eden or something like that, then you would just switch to Aponia after step 4 here and go into Aponia's main damage. But if you're obviously running with Herrscher of Finality and Truth, then you would tap ultimate to trigger burst, joint burst attack, and then switch to Herrscher of Finality to enter her damage phase, because she is, well, she's the main DPS out of the 3, to be quite frank with you. Now, going on to builds, I'm no expert on builds either, and don't expect any super niche builds that require, you know, finicking around with a lot of old sets, because I myself do not have a lot of these sets, and I struggle to find out, but there is a certain, like, May Stigma, Mid Stigma, that is, like, I think May School Uniform or some crap like that is, like, super good. But obviously, her signature gears are going to be her best. That's obviously fundamentally going to be her best build. Her domain of, I can't even remember its name, domain of what? Domain of something. Did I pass it? Am I blind? Domain of Clarity. That's going to be her best weapon alongside her signature stigmas, which is just, I think, Herrscher of Origin stigmas. And they got quite lovely pictures here. I did see them. They're quite cool, quite nice looking. After that, I believe personally that Herrscher of Thunder gears can still hold a pretty good kind of, you know, competition. Herrscher of Thunder gears, which is Benaras, 3-set Benaras, is quite good. With 7 Thunders of Retribution or Domain of Sanction is quite good. At that point as well, if you're thinking about it, any high attack weapon, so any pre-arm is probably going to be just fine as well, to be quite frank with you. I think that's going to be more main DPS. If you're going to go for a bit more of a support role, though, Handel full set will probably be the next best support set. Obviously, 7 Thunders, Domain of Sanction, or any high attack weapon would do just fine, because Handel is a bit more support. And if you're really desperate and you don't have a Handel, but you do have a Wang Zhenyi, Wang Zhenyi, I think, can also do it just fine. I read through a bit of the Wang Zhenyi stuff specifically, and it can trigger most of the effects. But also, if you have a mixture of Handel and Wang Zhenyi, you can definitely interchange a lot of these depending on the wording of it specifically. I will give one bit of a caveat for this character, and it's one of the only characters in, like, I think all of Honkai's history that can have this thing applied to them, is that having her without her signature gears is kind of not going to be a thing. That's why I also didn't recommend super extensively a massive combination of things, just kind of generic choices for lightning damage or support, is because the character has a very important thing with rolling for her gears, as you will essentially have, I think it was it 5 rolls refunded to you every time you do a 10 roll on her signature weapon banner, and you'll also get one of her signature or stigmas for free. So it's kind of like impossible to not have her at full gears if you kind of have played the game for a bit of time. So I think that's the one thing that you'll have to understand, is that signature gears are kind of going to be a standard for this character, as it's incredibly easy to get. But that's essentially this whole character. I think this is an okay look at the character and how they can work. I believe that this character is going to be the best DPS for Lightning. I think it's going to take over for all the other 3 characters. Obviously, in a very niche and very specific scenario, you're going to want Aponia when you're fighting Psychic, and you're going to want Mobius when you're fighting Bio, and you're going to want Herrscher of Thunder maybe when you're fighting mechs. But in the great scheme of things, Imaginary is going to be neutral to all of them, and thus have no damage reduction nor any damage bonus. So using Herrscher of Origin, sorry, I might have said Herrscher of Thunder, Herrscher of Origin in every scenario is going to be the easiest, as well in ratio to easiest to the best. You know, there's going to be an extremely high ratio of easiness to being good. So Herrscher of Origin is probably going to take the cake in terms of lightning DPS, and in terms of also fun factor, the character has incredible animations. I didn't show any animations today because I don't have footage, and, you know, if you want to check out footage, I'm going to leave the video that Marissa Honkai provided all this information for, because I want to see he does God's work in providing a lot of this information. And it's absolutely immaculate. Shows off some good gameplay there, and you can have a look at all the gameplay and animations there, which all look incredible. I'm excited for Herrscher of Origin. It looks to be a good character, and I'm going to enjoy this character, and they will, like I've said, I think, take over as the lightning damage DPS. But it does pain me to say that I think a lot of this character's value is lost in not having Herrscher of Finality as well as Herrscher of Truth. It's an unfortunate thing to say, because I don't like saying that you have to get 3 characters to make one character good, but it does seem to be the case that if you want to have this character at a pretty good level, you're going to have to try to get Herrscher of Truth and Herrscher of Finality at the same time. And that's more so extrapolated with Herrscher of Finality, where she also needs Herrscher of Origin to be decent. And so it's a massive debacle of bullshittery and ass fuckery, but it is what it is. We're coming to the end of Honkai's cycle, and, you know, they're pumping out some pretty big characters, pretty fun times. So it is what it is, as I say all the time. I'm going to say thank you everyone for watching, and again, if you have any more critiques on my analyses, I'd much appreciate the what I can improve on, as I do want to start doing this for Honkai, even though I'm late to the party. I'm looking to transfer this analysis type stuff to other games that I do play, like in the future, Honkai Star Rail. Be excited for that when that eventually releases. I would love to play that and support and help people understand how characters work. So thanks so much for watching, really appreciate it. Like and sub if you like this kind of content, or just if you want to press a red button, because pressing red buttons is fun. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Stay safe.